All right. Well, thank you, Mrs. McCaskey, for name dropping some great titles and some featured authors this Friday. We are going back to our name brand clothing debate. Yesterday, we read this controversial article, Is It Worth It? And we saw compelling evidence for both sides. The case for spending huge dollars for them jeans might be the fact that I belong, that sense of some pricier brands are like status symbols and they make you feel at ease that you are wearing what is mainstream and cool. Others that these name brands are more durable. They just feel better on your skin. They're going to last. Some of them, these are well-known, well-renowned, respected companies that come with a guarantee and they will stand behind their product. Other evidence, though, against it, maybe you're not getting any added value. You're just getting a $400 a ripoff because Consumer Reports found that some of the least expensive jeans were actually better made than their designer counterparts. So all you're paying for is a label, a big label. And they're marked up. They're marked up crazy, sometimes even as much as 1,000%. So we want to take a look at what did you have with your argumentative organizer. So that's where our work is going to be today. You want to go ahead and pull up this. We're going to be using this for our reasons, our textual evidence, and then today we're going to learn anecdotal evidence. So our learning target today is I can support my claim with both factual and anecdotal evidence that aligns to my argument. And not only does it just connect, but is it compelling? Is it interesting? Is it convincing? So we're going to work there today. So I will pause, and your job is to find both your organizer on the post and also, is it worth it? Our article. I'll meet you back in a sec. All right. So the arguments for and against really followed these lines: durability, quality, feel, guarantee, that the status symbol. But then on the other side, the high cost and the lack of added value. What is it actually doing for your life? Is not really making a huge difference in your sense of well-being, your health, your beauty. It's just a label that just sits on your shirt. And shouldn't our confidence, our sense of belonging, our sense of self-worth come from something beyond just an emblem? And we're just helping celebrities get richer, right? They're wearing that big cozy hoodie, but when they're making the big bucks, but when they're not on camera, are they really wearing that hoodie? And so right now we want to go back and we want to make sure, do a quick check. Big claim, thesis. Do you have name brand clothing is or is not worth the cost? You have a clear side. You can't say, well, sometimes. And of course it might depend. Of course there might be different instances where you'd see the argument on both sides. But when you're writing an argument, when you're trying to argue with somebody and you're writing one for academic class, you need to come out of the gate strong and state one position or the other. Okay. Now, there's many reasons, but right here you need to have your first one. So we're going to add an actual transition word. You might want to put in first, or you could do to start, but put in some kind of transition word, and then you have your first reason. For example, first, name brand clothing is durable. Boom. Or, flip side, first, name brand clothing is ridiculously overpriced. And then check, do you have a quote from the article? So with that, we want to put quotation marks in, and then you actually type whatever the article said. Name brand clothing can be marked up as much as 1,000%, blah, blah, blah. So you've quoted our article. I said to wait on the anecdotal evidence and do the same thing for reason 2. For reason 2, you could say secondly, or a transition word for this kind of order of importance or structure would be additionally, furthermore, to continue. You choose yours. What do you like? What sounds most like you? Make sure you have a second reason, maybe because they're oftentimes name brands are guaranteed. That gives you peace of mind. Or you could say, if you're on the opposing side, additionally, name brand clothing provides the wearer with a false sense of security. It's just a stupid status symbol. Then again, make sure you have your quote. So at this time, we're going to pause to make sure you have your reasons and your evidence for the text before we get into our new learning on anecdotes. See you in a sec. Okay, I believe that you're familiar with factual evidence. You've done enough CERs in your life to know what a quote from an expert is, from a scientist, from a psychologist, from a researcher, somebody who would be an expert on whatever argumentative topic you're taking up in your piece. Or maybe it's data, maybe it's scientific research. And you find these things in your articles. Oftentimes, they could be in a map, they could be in some kind of text feature like a bar graph. They could be in a pie chart, something like that, or just like a quote from the expert, or sometimes just some statistics. Okay. For example, in ours, this counts as factual evidence. The fact that the total cost of these True Religion jeans is $56.06, but yet the consumer pays $396. Boom, that's factual evidence. Factual evidence might be an expert, like a recent study by Consumer Reports found that some of the least expensive jeans are better made than their designer counterparts. That is a reliable study that was officially done. That is factual evidence. That's great, but it's not always, and it's the most reliable type of evidence. It's backed by a study, it's science, but it's not always what I would say the most compelling. I would say something that's actually less reliable is sometimes more effective, and it works at motivating people, and that is called anecdotal evidence. And all it is a story. You can use testimonial evidence, so you can tell a story from your own life with your Under Armour hoodie that you got in 5th grade, and you're still wearing that thing, and you love it, and it's still shiny and spanking new, or some kind of baseball glove that you've had forever, and it's so broken in and so well worn, but yet that durability it's been great. Or you could talk about a time you're completely ripped off. You paid big dollars for something, and it failed you. You were bamboozled. Okay, that's an anecdote, right? Or you tell a story about something that happened to somebody you know. Oh, well, my Aunt Linda, this happened to her. Oh, what is it, right? Those stories, they tend to paint pictures in readers' minds, and they stay with them. So it can be a witness experience, something that happened to somebody you know. Sometimes when we're writing, we create a scenario, like little Becky goes into American Eagle and buys her $90 jeans, and the next day, boom, they got a rip in them. She's out $90. Where if she would have bought an off-brand type of jean, she could simply replace them for far less than $90. So something like you create a scenario that illustrates the point. Okay. I must buy this anti-aging powder, Nina says. It's very effective. So it's kind of like word of mouth, non-factual data, but it paints a compelling story. So I asked you to wait on that, and we're going to add it today. I'll give you some examples from my own life. I'll give you from both sides of the argument. If I'm talking about, okay, name brands, I'm down with that. My husband loves Craftsman tools. I think it's his mission in life to collect and own every type of tool ever created. Okay, so we have a three-stall garage, but the third stall is just like his junk, his workroom, his workshop, whatever. So he buys Craftsman tools, and he left this mega big wrench outside, and he was working on the sprinklers or something, I don't know. And it got rusted, and we found it in the yard. I don't know, a couple weeks later. He's like, oh, no problem. That's why I buy Craftsman. I pay more, but I'll just go to Sears. I'll show it to him. And Craftsman stands behind their product, and they will give me a new one. And off he went. Went to Sears, came home with his brand new Craftsman wrench because it's backed by a guarantee. They stand behind their product. That's happened to me. I had an experience like that with Tervis. It got condensation or like leaky inside, and they said, oh, that's not our product. We don't allow that to happen. We will replace your product. So that is really cool. And so it saves money. You might spend more money up front, but in the end, because it's a better product or they guarantee it, you're not going to have to continually replace it. And I told you about my Adidas track jacket from 1998. I still have that thing and love it. On the flip side, bamboozled. I think some smart wool socks. I've had those a couple times and spending over $20 for wool socks that feel good hiking, but yet they get holes right away. And I mean, they're not gonna last forever. What am I doing buying $20 socks? It's crazy, right? Rolled gold pretzels. They might be found in the bright, glorious Meyer aisle with the fancy packaging, and you might see them in a commercial or on ads or something like that. But half the time I get them, it's all broken bits in the bottom. I go to Aldi, buy some Clancy's, pretzel rods fully intact. You have arrived. But yet, they're not the fancy name brand. We had this chat in crew the other day about off-brand like Cheez-Its and Cheese Nips and what tastes better. And a lot of the off-brands are pretty tasty. We were at Best Buy and we were talking about TVs, and they said, people, they like to buy the recognized name brands like a Sony, but the guys, he goes, I don't buy that stuff. They're just totally, there's no added value. You're just buying the name. He's like, Vizio, some of these newer products, they're just as comparable with their quality, but they're at a lower cost. So that would be some anecdotal examples from life. And I'm sure you've got some. Think about things that you've bought. For Father's Day recently, I came to my dad's with a pan of lasagna, and my brother completely one-upped me and came with this $400 Yeti cooler, and this thing was like 2 tons of rubber and canvas, and he wanted my parents to be impressed by it because they had this little beat-up vintage Igloo cooler thing forever, and it was just like this joke, and it was all dented and beaten, but they loved this cooler, so he replaced it with the big Yeti because it's apparently the status symbol. But you need like Hulk string to pry this thing open, and you got to get your hand in and out of there. It closes on you like a bear trap. It's like completely over engineered, and it weighs about 2 tons. So they're not happy with their $400 Yeti cooler. It doesn't necessarily add quality to their life, and they were happy with their little beat up circa 1979 cooler from their wedding back in the day, off-brand cooler. So I gave you some anecdotes. I told a couple little stories that illustrated a point. And so now it's your turn. Right here where I said wait yesterday, you need to come up with an anecdote that connects to yours. If your reason is durability, I want you to think about something you've had that's a name brand that's lasted and been a good product to you for a long time. If you're saying, no, name brands are awful, and your reason is that they're ridiculously expensive, your personal anecdote can be about some lower cost items, the off-brand item, how much it costs, and how you could probably buy about 50 of them for the price it costs for one name brand. So give a story example of your life as a shopper. Okay? So it has to go along with this. Maybe you've had a company that you've had experience where they have guaranteed and replaced your defective item, and it was a name brand that stood by their product. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to just let you work on your anecdotes. These should be in complete sentences. Okay, so you might want to start with, for example, okay, or to illustrate. Our experience that shows this is, and go ahead and come up with some compelling anecdotal evidence. All right. And at this time, it never matters to me what side of an argument you take. It only matters to me how you defend it, how you support it. So today it was, can you read an article and take a stance on it with a strong claim? Can you find some of your own reasons from the article? Can you back it up with evidence? And then our new learning today is an anecdote, a lifelike example or story that illustrates a point that's compelling. So we now need to write a short little conclude. What is your short concluding statement? So overall, okay. So just a final statement that states what side of this issue you are on. Name brand clothing is or is not worth it, and just a brief little thing why that's kind of punchy and fun, leaves your reader with something to think about, very short. Okay, so when you do that, you are finished with this organizer. I have not asked you to turn this into a big long essay or a speech or anything like that. You have just worked with organizational structure. This is like a loose outline. And so you could absolutely turn this into argumentative essay, a whole full developed written out thing, but you don't have to. But it's showing you that planning, organizing your ideas is so important. And if we were to write it, you wouldn't have a tough time. All of your thinking is right here. So teachers, we're going to go ahead and have students write their final concluding statement, and then we're going to kick it over to your class for a debate. Okay. So as a crew, you can kind of debate the merits of name brand clothing. Kids can kind of choose their best reason on their organizer, and when you're offering an idea, you have to say why. So I think this because. So you have to have either factual evidence or anecdotal evidence, like a story that goes along with it. Okay. Kids should also, you also can refute or respond to other people. Like, I see your point, but I disagree with it because. You have to keep all comments related to this argument about brand name clothing. You can't be like, oh yeah, your mom or your face. Okay, no, you have to be respectful and keep it on point. And you can't just say, well, name brands are better. You have to say why. So we're looking for state your reason and have some evidence to go with it. Okay? So finish up your organizer, have a friendly little debate. Hopefully you get some ideas tossed back and forth about this topic. And when students are finished, we do want to submit this organizer, turn it in for credit. All right? Actually, it's a grade. So turn this graded piece in, and we look forward to seeing you back again on Monday. Thank you.